Welcome to DRC Live, powered in part by the Denton Record Chronicle and Classic of Denton.
Well, good afternoon, Denton, Texas. I'm Lucinda Breeding. I'm the features editor at the Denton Record Chronicle. And this is our weekly program, DRC Live. We come to you around 2 o'clock every Wednesday. Now, normally, I share the table with my colleague, Jenna Duncan, our business editor at the Denton Record Chronicle. But you're clearly not Jenna.
Well, no, I'm Jenna. I just grew a beard.
A ginger beard. This is Stanton Brasher. He is a freelance writer here in Denton, among other things. He's got a lot of hustle. Stanton's got a lot of hustle. And today, the reason Jenna yielded her seat to Stanton is because we're going to devote our entire program this week to Thin Line, a free 5-day documentary film, music, and photography festival here in downtown Denton. The screenings are at the Campus Theater here in downtown Denton, also at Alamo Drafthouse Denton over in Razor Ranch. And photography exhibitions are going to be at Armadillo Ale Works in downtown Denton, at Golden Triangle Mall, just a little outside of downtown Denton, and the West Oak office building. There are going to be some photo exhibition type stuff there. And music is going to be happening just all over downtown Denton. So
all over the place, yeah.
If you want all of the venues, all of the times, we do have a full schedule for Thin Line on our website. That's dentonrc.com. And as of tomorrow, we will be running in our print edition on the second page of the newspaper the day's schedule. So you should be able to just pick up your daily paper, flip over to the second page of the paper, and if you're like, I'm looking for music, you'll be able to find Thin Line music. If you're looking for films, you'll be able to find the films. If you really want to see what's clicking, with the photos, you'll be able to check that out as well. So, but Stanton so graciously joined me this week in our cover story for Denton Time, which publishes tomorrow, about the must-see documentaries screening at the festival. But I do want to give you a minute here to talk about your history with Thin Line.
Yeah, so I spent 3 years as the director of film for Thin Line on the board. I watched so many documentaries.
Would you say hundreds?
Hundreds per year.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, there's more than like 300 submissions every year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I averaged probably about 350 documentaries.
That's a lot of documentaries.
Yeah, and not all of them were feature length, but there were so many. And what I always tell people when they ask me about that experience is that you have to watch so many bad documentaries.
Oh no!
So many awful ones to get to the good ones.
And there are good ones.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Thin Line, which is now in its 12th year, I believe.
Yeah, it's
now in its 12th year. I mean, they screen about usually around 60 documentaries. It might be a little give or take this year. Mm-hmm. And of course, this year, and they've been doing this for a while now, having encore screenings. So if you're planning to see some stuff and you're like, well, I really wanted to see this documentary, but it's at the exact same time as this one that I wanted to see, chances are you'll be able to catch an encore screenning of whatever you're having to miss.
Especially if it's a really good one.
Yes.
They had the, what was it? The one about the East Texas marching band.
Oh, yes.
Back.
Why was I thinking it was about the Rangerettes?
Rangerettes, yeah.
The drill team. Yeah, the drill team. Yeah. Sweethearts of the Gridiron? Was that what it was called?
Sweethearts of the Gridiron,
I can't believe I remembered that.
That's great, yeah, because I've watched so many that sometimes I'm just like, it's a movie about a thing. But that one did so well that they ended up, I believe they had 3 screenings that year.
That's what I thought.
And the third screening was a surprise one. They were just like, we can squeeze it in here.
Right.
Get more people in, so... So yeah, I'm stoked that they have more screen space this year to be able to do that. And I think they started that last year with Movie Tavern.
They partnered with Movie Tavern last year and then scooted on over to Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah.
No, both venues do have the menu and the alcoholic beverages, but no, Alamo Drafthouse has really been really trying to get out in front of Denton's festivals.
Yeah.
So,
which is, I mean, it's perfect for Alamo Drafthouse. Nothing bad about the Movie Tavern. I love the Movie Tavern. I've been there.
I go there.
I go there all the time. I know the previous manager. I know some of the current management there. But Alamo is definitely. I mean, they're so involved with. Was it Awesome Fest? And,
yes, Fantastic Fest.
Or Fantastic Fest.
Yeah, and
South by Southwest
yes.
and stuff like that. So that's kind of like more their niche.
It really is. I mean, they really are not just a cinema with like a really amazing craft beer menu, but they also really are very much an events sort of company as well. So,
and they have that Beyond Burger, which
I haven't tried it yet.
I'm not a vegan at all, but every time I go to Alamo, I order the Beyond Burger because it's really good.
It's really good. Well, you know what I tend to get when I go to Alamo is I think it's the zucchini pizza.
Oh.
I mean, and that's the sort of thing where I'm like, ew, no, but I did it on a whim and I'm like, this is delicious.
Is it like a zucchini crust or?
It's a regular crust, but the only topping is zucchini and squash, yellow squash. Yes, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But anyhow, what Stanton agreed to do was to come aboard to the Denton Record Chronicle this year, and we really looked over the offerings, the documentary film offerings, and we put together sort of our guide, the Denton Record Chronicle guide of must-see documentaries. And I wonder today, what would you recommend from what you saw that folks in Denton or outside of Denton who are coming here really make a point to see?
Well, I watched 5 movies, all of them ranging from pretty good to really good. The offering this year was just fantastic. I would have to say that my 2 favorite ones were Dawns of Disco.
Oh, yeah?
And Always in Season.
Oh.
And Always in Season.
That goes from kind of lighthearted and expressive to a little more serious, or maybe a lot more serious.
A lot more serious, yeah. Always in Season is not a film that you watch for entertainment purposes. You watch it so you can get angry. Wow. You watch it so you can be inquisitive. You watch it so you can kind of have an understanding of, especially as a white person, you can have an understanding of a perspective of what people of color have to face in this country. And, I've got a conservative family, and they're always like, oh, things have gotten so much better. And then I watch something like Always in Season, and I'm like, have they? Have they
really? Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about the documentary. What does it track? What story does it trace?
Well, it's about this 17-year-old. He's, I believe, a linebacker on his high school football team. He is dating a white woman who is in her early 30s. He's in North Carolina. And, some people in the community have a problem with him dating this white woman, especially she's not only is she white, she's older.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. Like kind of a lot.
Yeah, 16 years older. He gets found. He's hanging in a playground.
Wow.
He's been hanged. And the FBI came and investigated it as a hate crime, and they ruled that it was a suicide.
Okay.
But his family says no. He had a future. He had a love life. He never expressed any kind of depression. We think this is a modern day lynching. And the film also goes down to Georgia, and it tracks a reenactment of a very famous lynching that took place in the 50s.
They reenact a famous lynching.
Yeah, and they do it every year.
Are they celebrating something, or is this more of a commemoration, or?
Yeah, I guess it's more of like a commemoration,
okay.
So people in the community, they come and they watch this, and they can see just how horrible, something like that is in real life. And I mean, it's just, I would just gritting my knuckles, and you've seen my Facebook page. You know how much like I'm very much like, the one of the biggest supporters of Black Lives Matter as a white person, and
you're really interested in racial reconciliation and equality. Those are values for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people say that the whole reparations thing is a losing strategy for the Democrats, but that would get my vote. I'm down.
Huh.
I'm down for that.
No kidding.
As a white person, yeah, let's give them reparations. Let's give the ancestors of the slaves reparations. And so this movie kind of, addresses modern day racism.
Those relationships. Well,
yeah.
It sounds like a tough documentary, but a valuable one.
Yeah, and it played at Sundance, so
Sundance, yes,
high quality,
yes,
like very well made.
Yes, there are a couple of Sundance jury award winners in this year's lineup, which has actually become kind of typical for Thin Line to get Sundance winners.
We were trying, when I was there, we were trying really hard to figure out a way to make that happen. So I'm really, really proud of those guys for starting to pull some of them out. So.
Absolutely. So what else other than Always in Season?
Always in Season. The other one was Dawns of Disco.
Dawns of Disco, yes. Okay.
And it's like, what did I say in the article? I said it's like Milli Vanilli meets...
Oh, yes. Yes. I have slept since...
yeah, I can't. I wrote it. It was over a week ago. Milli Vanilli meets like Depeche Mode or something like that.
Oh, nice.
But it's about Italian disco.
Italian disco. All right.
Yeah. And there was this artist who in the 80s was very successful in Italy.
Okay.
Dim Harrow was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Din Harrow, not Dim Harrow, Din Harrow, like dinero. Like
yes.
money.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And he was a model who did not write his music or sing his music.
But he looked good lip syncing.
And he was from Italy. And then there was another artist who was from Boston, who his name's escaping me right now. But he wrote and sang De Niro's music. And he also launched his own career in Italy alongside.
Huh.
And he's a good looking guy too. Like he was not, but for some reason De Niro was huge.
Yeah.
And this guy was like moderately successful.
Sort of a B-lister.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the movie is kind of about him kind of seeking recognition for all the hits he wrote for De Niro, as well as,
and I think anytime you watch a movie or a documentary that kind of goes back, I'm going to say that far. Were there any? Is this a documentary that kind of allows you to laugh at some of the ridiculous things that human beings cling to in terms of trends and style and sort of pop culture? Is there some levity in there?
Oh, absolutely. I had a friend that came by my house while I was watching it, and she was like, "Is this a real documentary?
Is it a mockumentary?
Is this
like Spinal Tap?"
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about spandex and neon colors and big hair.
Of course, in the 80s, everyone had big hair in the 80s.
Yeah, it makes the human race look pretty ridiculous.
And I feel like now we're kind of doing that a little bit with the 90s. Not quite that much, but no. I came of age in the 80s, and so I look back and I'm like, oh no, no.
Yeah, I'm a 90s child. I'm all about the Jinkos.
There you go. There you go. So I wanted to kind of touch base on a couple of the documentaries that I saw. The article tomorrow is going to be these 10 documentaries that we're really recommending. We're not going to go through all of those today. The ones that I want to recommend are actually a little more on the heavy end of documentary filmmaking. One really excellent documentary is called, I'm going to try to pronounce this in Swahili. It's Kirafu. That is the Swahili word for rhinoceros. This is a remarkable, remarkable documentary about the men who are the guardians of the last surviving northern white rhinoceroses in the world. And it's one of those documentaries that kind of takes on environmental devastation and extinction, but also really brings an enormous amount of humanity to the story. The deal is that rhinoceros horn is worth more than gold on the foreign market.
Oh, wow.
And so poachers have been killing rhinoceros that sounds wrong to me. Rhinoceroses.
Rhinoceri.
Yeah, something like that. That actually sounds better than rhinoceroses is. But and they take the horn and they do various and sundry things with the horn. But the film really focuses on 3 of the caretakers. This all happens, it all unfolds at a place called Ol Pejeta Conservancy, which is in Kenya. It's a nature preserve, and they have more than 90,000 acres, so they have a lot of wildlife, but it's big, and there actually is a rhinoceros camp. And these 3 men, we follow them as they leave their families for 10 months out of the year to guard and care for these animals. There is the last surviving male of the species. His name is Sudan, and his progeny, Fatu, and I think it's pronounced Najin, 2 females. And these men have a relationship with these animals that it shouldn't be surprising. If chances are, if you live here in Texas, if you don't have a dog or a cat or a guinea pig, you know someone who has a pet that a family considers almost a person. Mm-hmm. But it's still really remarkable, and the film work is really incredible. There are close-ups of these animals that really give you an appreciation for how much like a dinosaur they are. They're large. They've got tough hides. They've got these, enormous heads and these big horns. And, they could do a lot of damage. They could kill a person.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
But these are living really in captivity so that they won't be slaughtered for their horns. And so they're accustomed to people. And it's really a story of these Kenyan men grappling with the reality of extinction. And they're enormously close to the situation. And it's not a happy film. There are subtitles. I think it's important for me to say that. Some people are very iffy about subtitles. There is English spoken in the film, mm-hmm. but there's also Swahili and probably some other European languages. There are subtitles throughout the film. But it's interesting. It's not, I wouldn't call it an overtly political film because it really focuses on these 3 men, James, Joseph, and Jojo. Jacob, Jojo, and James, and their relationship with these animals who aren't going to be around that much longer. They do follow one of the caretakers around the world as he explains to any audience who will entertain him that, these animals are going extinct. There are 5,000 black rhinoceros left. And that's a very unstable number. So it's not overtly political, but it's really, really eloquent and poetic, and the photography is fantastic. And if you're a Disney nature fan, or if you're interested in things like global climate change or mass extinctions, this is a movie that will really capture your attention and your imagination. It's got 2 screenings, and the first one is a Texas premiere, and that's going to be at 3:30 p.m. on Friday, this coming Friday at Alamo Drafthouse. If you can't make that one, but this sounds like a movie you really have to see, then you can go to another screening here at the Campus Theater on Saturday at 12:30 p.m. I highly, highly recommend it. I wasn't sure what to expect because I've kind of been following the story about the white rhinoceros, and I already kind of knew the end. But it isn't exactly an end. There's sort of a new beginning and whatnot. The other film I think people should see, and this is also a really heavy material. It's a documentary called Midnight Traveler, and it's filmed entirely on 3 cell phones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable.
This one's a foreign one as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the story of a filmmaker, an Afghan filmmaker. His name is Hassan Fazili, I believe. He and his wife Fatima are filmmakers. They started making movies in Afghanistan. They opened an art cafe. The local religious authorities got very uncomfortable with it, and then eventually the Taliban issued an execution order against Hassan. So they fled to, and I apologize if I'm going to mispronounce this, Tajikistan, which is kind of surrounded by China, Uzbekistan. It's very close to Asia. It's probably considered an Asian sort of area. And they apply to about 14 different countries for asylum. No one will take them. So they're deported back to Afghanistan, where there's a price on Hassan's head. So it becomes the story of this family's odyssey from Afghanistan to Serbia. And I mean, it's really compelling, very suspenseful. I mean, for days, these folks were walking, through Bulgaria, and they end up in several refugee camps. But it really captures the danger, the risk, the vulnerability of just traveling across open fields to get across a border, oftentimes illegally, and how they're arrested. But it's also the story of how they take their two young daughters. Their daughters are Nagaris and Zara, and how they have to create as normal of a life as possible for their two very young daughters. And there are moments in this film where I was desperately frightened for what might happen to these folks. But, we are hearing and reading and debating about immigration as we speak. And this is a first person account of one family's very, very dangerous journey from Afghanistan to, they eventually made it to Europe, but it's gripping storytelling. Wow. I highly recommend it. There are a lot of different languages spoken, some English, but it is a subtitled movie. Mm-hmm. That didn't take away anything for me. I don't tend to mind reading subtitles. I know some people find it very, very, distracting. Really worthwhile film, and it actually reminded me of Five Broken Cameras that screened at Thin Line, maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah, I think I remember that one, but it was before my time on the board.
Yes, yeah, which was also sort of the story of, a family grabbing some cameras, figuring out how to work cameras, and going with them as they protested the Israeli occupation of their ancestral farmland. That whole sort of tension point. But that film, Midnight Traveler, is also screening. It's going to screen on Saturday, and that will be the Texas premiere. It's going to be at 4:30 p.m. at Alamo Drafthouse on Saturday, and then at 3 p.m. Sunday, also at the Alamo Drafthouse. Those are some pretty heavy ones. There is lighter fare at Thin Line. Like tonight, the documentary opening Everything Well Groomed. Really, really fun story.
Did you get to watch that one?
I did. I got to watch it. I had seen maybe one or two photos like on social media of dogs groomed to look like other animals, but I didn't know there was any such thing as creative dog grooming.
It was bizarre. Because that was one of my 5 picks, and I picked it specifically because I love the movie Best in Show.
Oh, I love Best in Show. Yes.
And so I just wanted to, see a real life version of Best in Show, and it did not disappoint as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
I will say my biggest criticism of the movie, though, is not the movie itself, but sometimes you look in those dogs' eyes and you're like, they hate this.
Well, I mean, and then when you realize sometimes just the practice grooming, the dog for these groomers is a standard poodle. Mm-hmm. Because their coat grows so quickly. Yeah. But these women practice, turning these dogs into rainbow colors, turning them into other creatures.
There was one they turned into like a part of it was a raptor.
Yes, and, the dinosaur. It was Jurassic Bark.
Yeah,
Jurassic Bark. And these dogs sometimes have to be on the grooming table like 8-9 hours. So
yeah. They did not look like they were having fun.
And there was one dog that was like lying down with its head on a pillow, and I was like, okay, that dog's used to it. But 8 hours of grooming and shaving and dyeing, and that's a lot. So,
but it was, I felt like it had the spirit of a sports film, more than anything else, because you see these people come up and you see them triumph and you see them have tragedy, and
yes, that's true.
Just like your typical sports film, but about creative dog grooming. And that screens tonight, and there is an encore screening. Well, I've talked a lot. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for having me.
And if you want to see if you want to read about the 10 films that the Denton Record Chronicle thinks that you should make a point of seeing, pick up your Denton Record Chronicle tomorrow and just glide on over to Denton Time, or visit us at www.dentonrc.com. Go on over to the entertainment button and click on Denton Time, and you'll get all the Thin Line coverage you can handle. So it was great to see you again.
Good to see you too.
And I hope to see you at Thin Line.
Yes,
and we hope
I will be there.
to see you at Thin Line. And we will see you next week around 2 o'clock next Wednesday.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out DentonRadio.com for new Denton artists and where they're playing next. While you're surfing the internet, make sure you check out our friends Classic of Denton at ClassicofDenton.com.